We're going. We're going. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast by myself. I thought I'd jump on because this last month has been pretty hectic for me, and I wanted to update you on what was happening. So I want to cover two topics today. The first is having the importance of having friends that push you, that really want the best for you and that make you do hard things. And the second is purposefully doing hard things for yourself. And the first part of this, I want to start off with a story. So it was 3 weeks ago, and one of my friends who's a runner, he, on a random weekday in the night, he just started running and he did a half marathon, 21 kilometers. He came back and he messaged the boys about it. He sent his data in and he said, "This is what I've done." And we said, "Oh, that's really cool, man." And the rest of us, we aren't runners at all. There's 6 of us. So the rest of the 5, we aren't runners. I hate running. There's 2 others that hate running. The other 2 do it, but not frequently. And in that week, what had happened was after our friend Sam did the half marathon, one by one, everyone else in the following 7 days also did one. So my friend Kyle, he was inspired by that effort and he said, "You know what? I'm just going to run a half marathon." He's never done it before, no training, no preparation. The furthest he's run before that half marathon was 5 or 6 kilometers. So he decided to do it. Then my friend Jude did it. Then my friend Bray and my friend Robert, who has probably never run more than 2Ks consecutively in his life, he finished it. And then last was me. And I really did not want to do this half marathon. I despise running. But the boys were giving me so much slack about it. They were really, really getting into me. They were calling me all sorts of names. They thought I was weak. And so I can't bear this talk. It's going to continuously go on for as long as I live if I don't run this half marathon. So on a Thursday night, I decided to go out to a track and just start running. And I didn't know what I was in for. The most that I'd ever run before that was 3 kilometers in a row. But I said, you know what? If all of my friends have done it, who aren't runners, I surely can do it. Now, in 3 kilometers, feeling super good. Sent a video to the boys. I'm so alive right now, lads. I'm loving this. I'm going at a good pace. I just want to thank you for doing this, for letting me get on this journey with you guys. And I feel really good. And they said, "Just wait till you get to 10Ks, bud. You probably won't feel as good." And they were right. By the 12th K, I wanted to die. I couldn't feel my ankles. My legs were super heavy. I was fighting demons at that stage, fully in the mindset that I was probably going to stop in the next kilometer. And then my friend Cam, who I met a long time ago, I saw him on the same track and he was just walking and he was nice enough to say, "Hey, I'll come along and do some of the Ks with you." So that inspired me to do another push. There was some other friends that came out and watched me do this run because I told them about it. So that inspired another push. And it got to a stage there where I was like, I've got so much support that I physically can't stop because it would be too embarrassing to stop. I mean, one of my friends has done this by himself around an oval. One of my friends has done this by himself on a random night on a weekday. And I've literally got a support crew running with me and watching me. And I'm thinking about stopping. So, I at that stage, it was in my head that I could not stop just for my own dignity and my own self-respect. So I didn't. Some Ks I walked. It was painful, but I got through it, and the feeling at the end of it was, it was a relief to finish it, but it was also a proud moment in that I did something difficult, and the whole time I didn't think I was going to finish it, but I did, and I'd overcome some sort of hurdle in my own brain. It was really fulfilling. And I felt like I was a part of a community, the community of my friendship group, who had all in this week randomly completed a half marathon. And it just felt good to challenge myself with something like that. So the point of that story, circling back, is I'm so grateful to my friends who pushed me to do that. And not only just because they did it, but because they gave me shit about not doing it. And if they didn't put that pressure on me, I wouldn't have done it. And there are a lot of situations in which you will need to be that person to push your friend, or that friend is pushing you. And I just think it's so important to not take that as a negative, but to see the beauty in that and see how much they're willing to make you improve. They want you to improve. They want you to do what's best for you. And they're insulting you not out of hate, but out of love, out of a willingness for you to push yourself and for you to do something good. So I'm super grateful for my friends like that. I think, if there are situations in which people are pushing you, go towards them rather than back away from them. And that was a situation in which it had a trickle-down effect. None of us boys would have done it if it wasn't for Sam. And then if Kyle didn't do it, Jude wouldn't have done it. But everyone did it. And one by one, sure enough, we all racked up our first ever half marathons with our own respective times. And now we can say that we've done it. And that's super cool. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is finding things like this to push yourself. And 2 weeks ago, my friend Kyle came to me after he did this half marathon and after I did, and he said, "Hey, I'm wanting to do the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge." And that challenge is David Goggins ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So it's a completely absurd, demented challenge. And to put it into perspective, well, just to explain it a bit more, say you start at 12 a.m. 4 miles is 6.5 kilometers, 6.4 kilometers. Say it takes you about 40 to 50 minutes to run that 6.4 kilometers. It's 1:40 a.m. You go home. You get home by 2. You want to shower. You want to have a bath for recovery. Say that takes you 30 minutes. Then you want to have a stretch. You need to stretch for a decent amount of time. Now it's past 3 o'clock and you've only got now 30 minutes to sleep or an hour to sleep before your next run. So it's not even worth sleeping because the level of sleep that you get won't be sufficient to recover your body or actually do anything at all. It won't rid you of your tiredness. It won't do anything. It'll just be shut-eye. And so it's almost not worth sleeping. You don't have any time to sleep within that 4-hour gap between your next run. So the first run is at whatever time you want, 12 a.m. let's say. We did it at 8 p.m. The next run then is at 12 a.m., 4 a.m., 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., 8 p.m., etc., etc. It just goes around in a clock for 2 straight days, for 48 hours. So Kyle came to me with this idea and I severely underestimated it. I said, you know what, let's do it. Why not? If you're doing it, I'll do it. I'm happy to do it with you. You're in Darwin. Let's do it. He was stressing out. Now, I thought at the time that he was overestimating the challenge, but little did I know that he was rightly estimating the challenge. He was super stressed. He said that he was stressed because he knew that if he started the challenge, he wasn't going to stop until it was finished. And I wasn't that intense on it, but I thought, well, if you don't stop, I can't stop. And so a week later, with no training, I didn't go on any runs after he told me about that. I didn't prepare, nothing. We found ourselves in the McDonald's car park on our first running track at 8 p.m, recording a video on Instagram telling all of our followers what we were about to do and the challenge that we wanted to do. and that we would love for them to join us and follow us along for the journey. Now, this really solidified the fact that we could not stop whatever happened, because once you put something out there, you can't then go back on your word or say we haven't done it, especially if people are messaging you like they messaged us saying, hey, we believe in you guys, this is awesome, do it, smash it, I'm here if you need help, etc., etc. So at that point I was like, wow, this is definitely real. So at 8 p.m. we did our first run, and me and Kyle lately have been playing with the idea of the belief in God. This is a random segue topic, but maybe something interesting to share. And it was a pretty cool situation in which we both acknowledged that maybe we do have a belief in God. And there's this beautiful scene in the movie Evan Almighty, and Morgan Freeman playing God, he says to the wife of Noah, Noah's Ark in the biblical stories, that she says, Morgan Freeman says, "Are you okay?" And she says, "Well, my husband is Noah, and he's building an ark, and he says it's because God told him to do it, and I just don't know what to do with that." She was really upset, and Morgan Freeman as God, he said, "Well, let me ask you this. If a man prays for courage, do you think God gives him courage, or do you think God gives him the opportunity to be courageous? If a man prays for resilience, do you think God gives him resilience or the opportunity to be resilient? And if a man prays for his family to be closer, do you think God immediately grants that to him, or he gives him the opportunity for his family to be closer?" And that was a really cool scene for me, because if you look at the world that way, you look at everything as a test. Whether you believe in God or not is besides the point. But if you carry that perspective, you believe that things thrown at you from the universe or from God or from whatever it is a test. And Kyle told me after our first run, he said, hey, I prayed to God for resilience. And during the run, it poured down raining. It was our first run. It was at 8 p.m. We were really excited for it, and it just bucketed down raining. We had no cover. Our phones were soaked. One of my earphones went faulty. It like you couldn't even see 5 meters ahead of you. We were in this dark track at night with a headlight, and we were just soaked, heavy, whatever. But coming from that, rather than Kyle going, that was fucked, like that sucked. Obviously it did suck, but he said, hey, I just want to let you know that I prayed to God for resilience, and I looked at that rain and that difficult run that we just did as a test of me asking for that, and God saying, well, you want to be resilient? Here you go. Here's a bucket full of rain. And that was a cool little perspective that Kyle shared with me, and I really like that as well. And for the next 2 runs, I did the same. I prayed for resilience, and I almost in a funny way, but where the saying goes, be careful what you pray for, I said, bring it on. And I said, give me more resilience. I pray for more resilience. And the next 3 runs, one of them was fine. The other one was at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I was really sore, and that was a really difficult run. And the 4th one, we both at the same time sustained little minor injuries. Kyle did his Achilles, and he felt really tight on it. We still ran that run, and I did my knee. So we were both hobbling on that run. At that point, I was like, all right, I'm just going to settle down with my prayers. But yes, I just wanted to share that with you, and that was a really cool experience. Now, moving on, let me gather my thoughts here for a bit. Okay. So it was the 4th run. We had both accepted that we weren't going to stop if we started this, and there was a few things that we used to get us through this run. One of them was this great scene by Charles Bukowski, and it was Lex Friedman reading out Charles Bukowski's passage on the Joe Rogan Experience. And I just want to read this out to you because I think it's phenomenally beautiful. Let me just find it. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, and maybe even your mind. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision. It could mean mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you will do it, despite rejection and the worst odds. And it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. And we constantly had that poem playing. And it just said, go all the way. If you're going to start, go all the way. Why not? Whatever pain you suffer, finish it. Finish what you started. And that was a really big motivating factor for us. Another one that we used was a clip from Jocko's podcast. This guy is a former Navy SEAL. He's written several books. He's phenomenal. He's got unbelievable, unwavering discipline. And there's a beautiful clip in his podcast where he's telling a story about one of his subordinates when he was in the Navy SEAL that worked for him and said every time there was a problem, he would come to Jocko and say, hey, this is the problem. What do we do? This has happened, this issue has arisen. And Jocko would just turn around and say, good. And the point of that was, despite whatever's happening, whatever negatives are happening, there is always going to be some good out of that. He said, this battle's, we don't have this equipment for this battle. Good. That means all of our soldiers will have to work hard to prepare for a different training method without that equipment. Good. And we took that on in our own stride as we're injured right now. We're in pain. We're hobbling. Good. This challenge isn't supposed to be easy. There's nothing about this challenge that's fun. No one has said that it's going to be fun. No one has said it's going to be easy. In fact, by all means, a challenge that's made and invented by David Goggins is going to be utterly sadistic and demented. And we knew that. And we said, good, bring it on. And the third thing that drove us to do this and that helped us get through it was David Goggins and his acceptance of being called insane. He's been called insane for a while. No one understands him, and rather than being upset by that thought, he accepts it. He knows that he's insane. He knows that he's different to everyone else. He does things to challenge himself that most people can never, ever fathom. And he's fine with that. And Kyle brought the idea to me that this year he wants to be called insane. He wants to do things that people look at him and go, you are psychotic. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Because I think there's beauty in that. That means that you embrace the suck. That means that your mental resilience is so much stronger than the people around you that they have no idea why you do what you do. That means that you intentionally consistently put yourself through hard things. And it's fine that people don't understand you, is what I realized throughout this run. I used to look at David Goggins and I used to think, I would never want to be like you. You're insane. I would never want to get up at this time and run. I would never want to do an ultra marathon. Why? This would be the most boring, difficult thing that there is not even any reason to do. But after doing this challenge, I feel like I understand him a lot more. He would rather be called insane than fit in with the rest of the population. He would rather be called insane than just be an ordinary person. He wants to challenge his mind. He wants to callous his mind, as he says, so that when the time comes for a even more difficult situation, he's ready. He's prepared. And as I said, he finds beauty in the pain. And I think that's a cool place to be. So I definitely understand that a bit more. Now, a thought that I had during this run, and it was a pretty cool thought, is that when you intentionally put yourself through hard things, you realize that yes, you're doing a difficult thing, but it also humbles you because you understand that despite the fact that you're doing this hard thing and despite the fact that you're experiencing pain, there are so many other people in the world that have got it way worse than you. And my mind during that run couldn't help but revert to people in poverty, in the slums, working ridiculous hours every single day, 7 days a week. Reverting to people like Ned Brockman, who ran 80 kilometers every day across Australia. He had maggots growing in his feet. David Goggins, who ran his first ultra marathon and was shitting blood and had liver failure. And these people, and my little hamstring injury, my little knee injury it's insignificant to that. It's nothing to that. And I have the audacity to complain about it. And that's the beautiful thing that I found about doing hard things to yourself, is that it humbles you and it gives you perspective. And you realize that the people that complain the most about their situation, their circumstances, are usually the people with the easiest lives. And that's definitely been my experience. My parents are immigrants. They moved to this country in 2005, and I've hardly ever heard them complain about their situation, about their lives. And not to say they've had it extremely tough, but it's a funny phenomenon when you're an immigrant and you see the hardships of other immigrants and other families and people of different backgrounds, and then you also see people who were born here who have it very, very easy complain about very trivial matters. And I just figure that it's those are the people that don't do anything challenging, that don't have experiences in this world that humble them, like doing something like this would. And in that way, I think that it's very, very important to do things that are difficult to you. Okay. Now, so we're 5 runs in. We're 5 runs into this challenge. There's 12 runs in total that we have to do. 12 6.4 kilometer runs. And by the 5th run, I'm limping. I am down and out. People are looking at me as they're walking past like, what is this guy doing? Why is he even go home and rest, bro? Like you're limping for no reason. You're still walking and trying to jog. Like, what are you doing? And I called my friend who's a physio, and he told me to do some exercise and do some stretching after I did that. And I did. I went home and I felt a little bit better. I was still limping, but I still had to jog on this knee. I just had to use my other foot for most of the output. But I realized after that, during the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th run, that it is pretty much 70% mental. It's mostly mental. And I found myself at a stage early in the race where I was over exaggerating my pain. I hadn't experienced this type of pain. I hadn't ever pushed an injury so much. Every time I was injured before, I would immediately stop. But I'd never pushed an injury like this or forced myself to keep going. And so at the start, I felt that I was over exaggerating this pain, which at the time I didn't feel like I was over exaggerating. But after each and every run, as I got more and more sore, as I got more and more injured, as I got more and more stiff, I just found that my brain was completely shutting that thought down. It didn't even mean anything to me. The fact that I was injured was now normal. It was just a normal part of my human body. And it was just up to my brain at that stage to just keep on going and just keep telling my body to put one foot in front of the other. And it was really interesting to me when people would come on runs with me, my friends, and they would do one run at 12 p.m. and then they would do another run at the next day at 4 p.m., for example. And they would say, geez, I'm really sore from that first run. And I couldn't even... I knew what they meant. Of course they would be sore after a long run like that, but my brain couldn't compute it, and it completely disregarded their hurt. It was really interesting because I knew what they were feeling, but I had such little empathy toward it because of what I had also felt and what I was then able to just put to the side, that I saw in real time that they hadn't done enough to be able to put that pain to the side. That pain was at the forefront of their mind because it was new, it was fresh. They hadn't run on it like I had. They hadn't pushed through it like I had. Not to say that I'm some sort of warrior, but just to say that now I understand now when people like David Goggins say ignore the pain, it's all mental, don't worry about it. They call you a wimp. They insult you for putting so much emphasis on your injuries and your pain, and they say just get up out of bed. It doesn't matter how you're feeling, just get up. And I know why they say that now. They say that because there's been so many times in their life where they've completely ignored that pain, they've completely ignored their suffering, and they've just kept going, that when other people do it, they can't fathom it. They can't understand why they would complain. And I had, at some stage of that race, had felt that. And it was really interesting to me because I've been a complainer pretty much all my life about at least physical things. Every time I'm sore, I complain. Every time I'm sick, my mum looks after me, gives me medicine, feeds me medicine, takes care of me. I'm definitely a complainer when it comes to my body. So that was a really interesting thought. One of the last substantial points that I want to make is realizing during that run, especially after all the support that me and Kyle were getting, how close it is, how almost easy it is to stand out from other people. And I don't mean to say this in an arrogant way, but I mean to say this in a way that you have two options in the way that I see it after doing a challenge like this. And one of those options is to conform with what everyone else is doing. And the second option is to do something so unbelievably hard that people don't understand, but that people can't help to support. And by Kyle and I doing this challenge and putting it out to our friends and putting it out to the world, people supported us and people got around us and it's safe to say there's a very small percentage of the population that has already or is doing this challenge. And so just by partaking in the challenge, we had already put ourselves in the top 5 percentile of the world who would ever imagine doing something this hard to themselves. And if you consistently do things like that and stack them on top of each other, then you consistently find that you're separating yourself from the rest of the population. And in that way, it doesn't take years and years and years to be considered exceptional or be considered an outlier or any of those titles, or insane, for example. It takes a week. It takes one challenge. It takes a month. It takes 3 big runs. But if you keep doing that, that separation expands. And people won't understand you, but they'll have no choice but to admire what you've done, because maybe they've never thought of it, or maybe they would never think of doing it. And just like that, you're different. You stand out. People don't understand you. That's cool. People admire you. You're doing something difficult. You're alive. You're free. You have perspective. You have stories. You're injured. Cool. Good. That's cool. And it's certainly better than just being like everyone else. Whatever. I don't know why I'd want to live my life like that after doing something like this. And yeah, I want to be different. I want to stand out. Cool. So that's something that I learned from this challenge, is that your goals aren't as far as you think. Your goals are just you telling someone what your goals are. That's how far away they are. You think they're years away, but put it out to the world. Watch what happens when you tell the world your goals. You now have an incentive to do them. You now have people who support you. You now have people that hold you accountable. You now can't fail because you've told people what you're going to do, and you're going to lose self-respect if you now don't do it. So, hey, whatever you're thinking, whatever your ideas are, write them down on a notes app. The world needs your ideas. The world needs inspiration from you. And do them. Just start. One thing that's frustrated me now after doing the half marathon, after doing this challenge, is that when people post that they're training for a half marathon, or for their first 10-kilometer run, or for their first swim, or whatever that may be, I just think to myself, cool, but you could probably just get out on the track and run that tomorrow if you wanted. Like, what are you training for? Are you training to get the world's best half marathon time? Why don't you just start running, and if your legs don't work anymore after 10 kilometers, then at least you go home that night and you say, okay, I've made it 10 kilometers. Next time I need to make it 2 more kilometers, and then that way I'll be 7 Ks closer to the target. Just try it. Because chances are, even if you have to walk it, even if you have to substitute some parts for some other parts, you can probably finish it. And hey, and at least that way you don't have to wait 6 months until October comes around to then actually finish this half marathon. You will have by that time done 8 half marathons. And then when that time comes around, you definitely know that you can do it because you've done 8 of them. You already know what the hurt feels like. Your body's already used to it. You didn't spend all this time training just to run your first half marathon in October. You've done one in February, March, April, May, June, July, and when the October race comes, you're ready. So I would just say get out and start it. Don't worry about training. Don't worry about, I'm not ready, I'm going to get injured, I've never done this before. Who cares? Just do it. And just see how far you get. And challenge yourself. And gain some perspective while you're at it. So, hey, I think that's it. I just want to say I'm super grateful to all of those who were listening and to all of those who supported Kyle and I during the run. Unfortunately, Kyle got injured. He got a really bad Achilles injury during that run, which rendered him unable to finish it. And I felt super bad for him, and he felt really bad as well. But that's a normal thing that is expected to happen. The guy couldn't even walk or bend over. And yeah, but we are so grateful to all of those who messaged us, to all those who ran with us, to all of those who even viewed our posts, as annoying as they might have been. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys, and stay tuned. I'm gonna definitely be doing some of these challenges again. I definitely am keen to push myself to limits this year. Whether it's, mentally or physically, intellectually, spiritually, whatever that may be. I'm really excited. It's going to be a big year, and thank you for listening.